Hi and welcome back. In the last video, we began learning about the basics of working with HTML. In this video, we're going to continue along that line, and we're going to learn some more about a specific type of HTML tag called a structural tag. And specifically today, we're going to learn about the HTML tag, the head tag, the body tag, and another final tag called the div tag. Now, there are certainly other structural tags that are in HTML, especially when you're talking about HTML5. But these four are sort of the ones you need to know right from the beginning. Now, I've actually gone ahead and I've switched into my index.html page. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go to edit and select all this text here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go to edit and cut. I'm going to want that in the clipboard for later on. But basically, we want to start off with an empty document. Now, every HTML document is going to begin with something called a doc type statement. A doc type statement. And this is going to be the same in all of your HTML pages. It's going to start off with an opening bracket and then an exclamation point and the word doc type. After that, you're going to go ahead and type HTML and then close that bracket. And I'm going to hit, whoops, I accidentally put a break tag in there. I'm just going to hit enter a couple times. So that's a doc type statement. Now, don't worry if you don't know what a doc type statement is. We're going to talk more in depth about doc type statements in a later video. Just know that all of your HTML documents should begin with this. Then after that, we actually start placing HTML tags. Now, browsers can interpret different kinds of code. There's HTML code, there's CSS code, there's PHP code, JavaScript, lots of different types of code. But the main type of code that we deal with in an HTML document is HTML. So we begin by typing an opening HTML tag and then a closing HTML tag. And normally, this is going to be the first tag. Doc type is an exception. It's not really a tag. This is going to be the first tag in your document, and this is going to be the last tag in your document. And all of your HTML is going to go in between. Now, the next thing that every HTML document should have is a head section and a body section. And you create those just simply by opening a head tag and closing a head tag, and then opening a body tag and closing your body tag. So here, this could be considered the simplest structure possible for an HTML document. You have HTML right here that should encompass everything but your doc type statement. And then we have a section for the head material, and we also have a body section. Now, anytime you need to create a command or write some code that tells the browser something about the document, anytime you need to write code to tell your web browser something, that code is going to go into the head section. The user or a visitor to your web page will never see anything you place in the head section. The only thing you place in the head section are instructions for the browser. The body section is where your actual content is going to go. So as far as the text, the images, all the content that you want to display to your user, that's going to go in the body section. And I'm actually going to click right here in that section, and I'm going to paste that text that I cut earlier so we don't have to retype that. And I'm going to go ahead and remove that extra line break, highlight all this, and sort of indent it in. You remember I said indenting is very important to maintain the readability of your code, and you can sort of start to see that here. Both the head and the body section are contained inside of your HTML tag, and then all of this content is contained inside of your body tag. So again, this is the basic structure of an HTML document. Now, the body section is pretty easy to understand. It's content that we want to display to the user. But what I said about the head section, that you put instructions or commands for the browser, well, that requires a little bit more explanation. And the first thing that should actually go in your head section is a title tag. And a title tag simply looks like this. It's an opening tag with the word title in it, and then the title you want to give to your web page. And I'm just going to go ahead and type, "This is my web page," and then I'm going to close that title tag. Again, notice here, in this case, I chose to have both the opening and the closing title tags on the same line. But the head section, because they contained another tag, I put them on different lines. It would be perfectly valid for you to have written this code like this. This is the same as this. No difference at all. Well, actually, I said there's no difference at all. There is actually a big difference. This is much more readable from a human standpoint than the way I had it the other way. And that's what you're always going to be going for with putting things on different lines or your indentation. You want to make your code as readable and clean as possible. So we've gone ahead and we've placed a title tag. Now, what is the title of the page? Well, simply, it's whatever goes in the tab for your browser. Now, you may say, well, I don't care what text is in my browser tag. And when I say that, let me go ahead and we haven't actually seen this yet. You can see this little button right here in your toolbar. This is actually your preview in browser button. And any browsers that you had installed when you set up Dreamweaver should be listed here. And you can see I've got quite a few. You may only have Internet Explorer or Safari or a subset of these. I'm going to show you how to add additional browsers in a later video. But I just want you to go ahead and open up this page in one of your browsers. I'm going to go ahead and select Google Chrome here. Since I have some unsaved changes, it's going to ask me if I want to save them. Yes, I do. And here is my web page in a browser. And you can see the tab here up at the top says, "This is my web page." I could change that to be whatever I want. If I could highlight that and type "Hello World." Save it, preview it in the browser, and again, it doesn't matter what browser you're using. Now that tab has the title "Hello World" inside of it. So the title tag allows you to, it doesn't display actually on your page anywhere, but the browser will place it in your tab, in your open tab right there. Now, again, you may say, well, I don't care what gets displayed in the browser tab. But you actually do. Because when you go to, let me go ahead and open up Chrome here again. When you search for something inside of Google, I'm going to go to google.com here. You could use Bing or Yahoo or anything you want. And I'm just going to search for CNN here. If you've ever wondered how Google decides what gets placed right here, the text that's in your title tag is what will show up in a search engine. So you want to make whatever you place in this title tag meaningful for when somebody finds your web page inside of Google. So hello world wouldn't be a great title. I may go ahead and type my first website dash Dreamweaver CS6 course. And that way that will show up in your search engines results. But again, this is an instruction for the browser. It says what to go ahead and place on the tab for your page. Now, there are lots of other things that you're going to need to place inside of the head section for your document, and we'll get to those as we go along through the course. But for right now, the important thing that I want you to remember is that you have an HTML tag, and inside of that you should have a head section and a body section. In your head section is where you place instructions for the browser. And again, that will become more clear as we go along. And the body section is where you place the actual content, the text and the images that you want your site visitor to see. And again, you can see my first website, Dreamweaver CS6 course here. And then you can see all this content. When I preview this in my browser, you can see my title tag there, which actually gets cut off after a certain amount, just because there's no room here. But again, search engines will pick up the whole thing. And here is all of my text, my headings, and my paragraph. So instructions for the browser go in the head section. Content that you want your user to see is going to go into your body section. Now, coming back to my browser, I'm going to go ahead and close these extra pages off here. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my Manchester template page. And I'm just going to go to the opening page. And you can actually use any web page for this. But I want you to think about the way content is organized, or the way this page is structured. First off, we have this sort of heading section up here that has the logo for our company and our social media icons here. Then we have this top navigation section here that has the 7 links here. Below that, we've got this rotating banner. And below that, we have a content section that has both an area for our main content as well as a right-hand sidebar. And when we get to the very bottom, we've got a footer area. So we've got a banner, a content area that's broken into 2, a footer. On this web page, it's very easy to see sort of the underlying organization, the underlying structure of this page. Divs are the basic way that you structure content on your page. So I could have a logo div right here, a social media div, a top nav div, a banner div, a content div that has a content area and a right sidebar div, and a footer div. So that way you can both format and position all of these elements as you need to. And this is extremely important. It's impossible to create a website with any level of design unless you've thought through the process of how you're going to structure your page. And again, we're going to talk more about process in a little bit as soon as some of these fundamentals are out of the way. If we look at the Krakow site, again, we've got sort of a top section here, then a logo section or a name section, top nav, a banner, a sub banner, and then our content area. And then we have a rather large footer, and finally a bottom region down here at the very bottom. And if we look at different pages like the About page, you can see we've got a left-hand sidebar here and a content area. But it should be fairly obvious that there are different sections to each one of these different areas. So what we need to do is we need to be able to create those divisions on the page. So I'm going to click to the after my body tag and hit enter a couple times. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type div, and then I'm going to close that div. And that div is where I'm going to place sort of my banner material or the title material for our page. And then after that, I'm going to want a space to put some navigation elements. So I'm going to go ahead and create a div there. And notice right now they're completely empty. There's nothing inside of them. But I've got a div or a section for my banner, and I've got a div now for my navigation. I also want to create a div for my content. And actually, since this is my content here, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to put my closing div below all of that content right there. And then sort of highlight and tab that in there. And then finally, I'm going to go ahead and place a div down here at the bottom for my footer. So I've created 4 divs, 3 of which are empty right now, inside of my body section so that I can begin to add content. So I'm going to come up here in the title section here, and I'm going to go ahead and put an H1 tag and type this is the banner area. And then I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a smaller heading, let's say H3, and I'm going to go ahead and type page navigation. And I'm not actually going to place any links there. We will in just a moment. And the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just check and make sure that everything is indented here and that all of this body content is inside of this third div that I have here. And then I'm going to click in my 4th div, and inside of a paragraph tag, I'm just going to type this is the footer area. And we'll go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and look at this in a browser. From now on, instead of going to design view, I'm going to go here and I'm going to open up my web page in a browser, which I'm going to use Google Chrome. And again, I'm going to show you how to add some browsers to that menu. You'll see there's the banner area, there's your page navigation, there's our content, and there's our footer. You're going to notice that the divs don't do anything at all to affect the appearance of your page. They're the way you're logically structuring or logically organizing your content. And again, later on, you're going to see why that is valuable. You know, for example, if I come back here to my Manchester page, I can tell the browser, make this div here with all that stuff in it. Make that div a right sidebar, make it a particular width, and move it over to the right. But I have to be able to segment or identify the content that's in this area in order to do that. And again, that's what divs allow you to do. And you do that with CSS that we'll talk about in just a little bit. So I've gone ahead here and created these different divs on my page to organize my content. Now, the last thing that we need to talk about right now as far as divs go is how to give IDs, or how to give identification to the different divisions that you create on your page. And that's very easy to do. You'll see I have my opening div tag for this section. And what you're going to do is you're going to click in between the V and that closing bracket and type a space. And then you're going to type ID for identification equals quote, and then whatever you want to call that particular area. Don't use terms that are the same as tags. So I wouldn't want to use the term ID equals title here, because title is a tag. Or ID equals body, because body is a tag. So I'm going to call this section just banner. I'm going to say ID equals quote banner close quote. And I'm going to do that for every one of the divisions, every one of the divs on my page. I'm going to go ahead and call this one nav. And then I'm going to call this third div content. And then I'm going to call this final div down here div equals footer. And actually I'm breaking one of my rules there, because footer is an HTML5 tag name, but that'll work for right now. And again, when we go ahead and look at this in a browser window, those IDs don't show up anywhere. But later, when we're trying to refer to something, we can now refer to it by this ID, or any of the IDs right there. So anytime you create a div, you're always going to place an ID with a name for that div so that you can refer to it later. Or I should say almost every time you do that. And when in doubt, always give it a name. And this is actually, again, this is called a tag here, and where we have opening and closing tags. This is actually called an attribute. Tags can have attributes. And when you hear the word attribute, you can think of the word property or the word characteristic. You know, it's some sort of a characteristic of that particular item. In this case, I'm giving an identification to that div. And attributes always follow the same format. There's the name of the attribute, equals, and then the value of the attribute inside of quotation marks. So we've now gone ahead and we've added some structure actually to our pages. In the next video, we're going to continue talking about HTML, and we're going to learn how to do things. We've learned about how to do headings and paragraphs and lists. We're going to talk about how to add links into our pages in the next video, and also how to add images and include images in our site. So I'll see you in the next video.